What does Bibi Netanyahu do? He takes 50 million shekels, 50 million shekels, and instead of feeding hungry kids, what does he do? He spends it on Eurovision. Disaster is the only thing that follows such a thing. The Prime Minister of Israel, this moron Bibi Netanyahu, decided to make an halacha himself. What did he decide? Rabotai, we need Eurovision. The Toivat HaShem, the disgustingness of Hashem, the singing competition, where last year's winner is a transvestite Israeli. We want to bring it to Eretz Yisrael for the third time, really the fourth time, but the third time, and you have the permission to violate Shabbat for it. He decided, Bibi Netanyahu, that as a Shiur Torah every Tuesday, he decided that 30,000 Jews are allowed to violate the Shabbat coming up. Rav Kanievsky and Rav Edelman, two Gadloei Yisrael, just wrote a letter today, published a letter today. They said all of Am Yisrael is in sakana. All of Am Yisrael is in sakana right now. All of us have to, tomorrow night, pray, go to the Beit Knesset, read specific Tehillim, I can tell you which ones they are, blow a shofar, and do everything possible to ask Hashem for forgiveness, ask Hashem for mercy. Because right now there's something that's happening that most of you guys don't understand what it is. The magnitude of what's happening. Rav Kanievsky doesn't write letters. Let me just tell you that. People say a lot of things in his name. Rav Kanievsky doesn't write letters. He doesn't write letters. He's too busy learning Torah. People say things in his name that he doesn't say. What he says is usually in books. He doesn't write letters. He wrote a letter. He publicized the letter, and he says all of Am Yisrael right now is in serious danger. And we already have signs of it. The day after, Bibi Netanyahu said that 30,000 Jews are allowed to violate Shabbat because suddenly he became a posek. Okay, for Eurovision, for this garbage, for homosexuality, for immodesty, for znut, for all the garbage in the world, 30,000 people are going to violate Shabbat for it. Guess what? The next day, or within 48 hours, 700 missiles were shot at Am Yisrael. 700 missiles within 48 hours. That's not enough? Rav Kanievsky, a few other rabbis spoke about it. Rav Kanievsky wrote a letter. Guess what happened today? There was a 4.4 earthquake in Yerushalayim and across the entire country. Israel does not get earthquakes. We're not America. We're not Los Angeles. You have an earthquake in Eretz Yisrael, Gemara says you have a very serious problem. Why? There's psukim in the Torah to talk about it. Psukim in the Torah talk about it. Why does Hashem give earthquakes? Why does Hashem give earthquakes? You look at the Gemara in Yerushalmi, Masechet Brachot, the Perek 9, Halacha number 2. It says that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, on one end, it says in Tehillim that he looks at the land favorably and gives it sustenance from the beginning of the year until the end. But then in another one it says, Kotuv. Then in another one it says that he looks in the land and he makes it tremble. Why? He says when people do certain things that are good, he looks at it favorably. When people do certain things that are bad, he brings earthquakes. What are the good and the bad? So the Gemara says the following. The Gemara says, when people build theaters and circuses and events and they celebrate with things that are against Hashem, Hashem sits there in Shemaim looking at them and gets angry to the point where he wants to destroy the world. Because his house is destroyed, the Bet HaMikdash is destroyed, and they're sitting there relaxing in a theater at Eurovision. They're over there at the Eurovision, and they're having a good time. But he, the Melech Malchei HaMelachim, is in Shemaim, he's crying over his Bet HaMikdash, but you're having a good time. He says this gives him the feeling to destroy the entire world. That's what God says. But then Eliyahu Navi says to Rabbi Meir, says, yes, that's one aspect of it, but there's something else too. What else is there? It says that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu looks at the world, he sees that people are far away from him. He sees the people are far away from him to such an extent that they're not doing the will of HaShem. In more ways than just the theaters. What ways? Rav Acha says one of the ways, one of the few things that causes earthquakes is when there is a increase in homosexuality. And then one of the other Tanaim, one of the other Amoraim, the Rabbanan actually, the rabbis, say, oh, it's not just that, it's the machloket. It's the different debates, the disagreements, divorces, partnerships breaking, stealing, and things of that nature. Now, we have ourselves several different reasons of why the Gemara says that HaShem shakes the land. He brings earthquakes as a sign that you have to do TeShuva, whether it's homosexuality, or it's being in a theater, immodesty, or perhaps it is the different types of machlokets and debates and so on that people have that are not for Shamayim. Eurovision is not the first time that it's coming to Eretz Yisrael. This is the third time. And Hashem says to the prophet Amos, he says to the prophet Amos, in the chapter 1 and 2, he says it about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 times. 7 times he says, כה אמר אדוני על 3 פשעי עזה ועל 4 לא אשיבנו. Or he says, כה אמר השם על 3 פשעי צור ועל 4 לא ישיבנו. Or he says again, כה אמר השם על 3 פשעי אדום על 4 לא אשיבנו. What does it all say? Why does it keep mentioning the same thing 7 times? Hashem says, thus said Hashem, for the first 3 transgressions that you did at Edom, at Gaza, at Tyre, different things. The first 3 times you made this sin, I looked away. I looked somewhere else. I said, oh, give him time, give him time, give him time. But the 4th one, I will not pardon it. And I will punish you with the sword and with suppress my mercy and punish you with anger and slaughter and incessantly and so on and so forth. It says horrible things. You want to read it yourself, you can read it. They're just going to make you cry. Rabotai, what's happening right now is not the 3rd time, it's the 4th time. Aside from that, this event is full of immodesty, full of Chilul Shabbat, represented by a transvestite. But last but not least, the Gadloei Yisrael are crying over it, saying that this is going to bring a disaster to Am Yisrael. Why? Because the government of Israel always says that it doesn't have enough money to feed the poor. Right now, statistically speaking, we did a little bit of a research. It says there are 1 million kids, 1 million Jewish kids in Eretz Yisrael that go to sleep starving every night, hungry every night. 1 million kids. 1 million Jewish kids in Eretz Yisrael going to sleep hungry. Now, if I was the governor, or if anybody normal was the governor, and you knew that there's 1 million out of 8 million, 12% of your population, and probably 35-40% of the actual kids in the country are going to sleep hungry every day, the least you should do is what? Feed them. Feed them. But you know what? You could do something even less. What can you do? Try to save money so you can feed them in the future. Because you don't have money right now. That's why they're hungry, right? So try to save money. What does Bibi Netanyahu do? He takes 50 million shekels, 50 million shekels, and instead of feeding hungry kids, what does he do? He spends it on Eurovision, to bring Eurovision to Eretz Yisrael. So not only is he telling 30,000 people to violate Shabbat, not only is he promoting homosexuality, immodesty, and all the garbage of the world, but on top of it, instead of actually giving money to the hungry kids in his own country, what is he doing? He's spending it on homosexuality and toivat Hashem and all that stuff. This is why, Rabotai, the Gadloei Yisrael, are starting to cry because they know that disaster is the only thing that follows such a thing. So, what's happening right now in the world of Jews is far more dangerous than anything we've ever seen in our life. The only thing you can compare it to is every single time span that took place right before a disaster. Whether it was the Spanish Inquisition, or the Holocaust, or the Bet HaMikdash, the first one, the second one, every time these disasters happened, there was many signs. There were writing on the wall. Like we talked about a few weeks ago about the Holocaust, all the things that happened for years. Before the Holocaust finally happened, unfortunately, there were many signs. And I'm afraid to tell you that right now, all of that is happening again. And it's happening in a much more rapid pace. And it's very scary. Now, all we can do is very limited. One, we could bring you the facts. Do what you want with them. You can curse me out, you could write stupid comments, or you could do something about it. What we're trying to do is, number one, publicize it. Publicize that we're all in danger right now as a nation. Whether you're in America, or you're in Bulgaria, or you're in Israel, it doesn't really make a difference. Once there's a decree on everyone. Whether you keep Shabbat or you don't keep Shabbat, there's a decree on everyone when there's a decree. So every single person should take on themselves some type of mitzvah, something that they're not doing, something that they're weak. If you are immodest as a woman, this is the time to become modest. Why? At least to fix the tikkun of the immodesty that's being promoted this weekend. If you are mechalel Shabbat, this is the time to start keeping Shabbat. At least start with this Shabbat. Keep this Shabbat. Why? 30,000 Jews are not going to keep Shabbat. This Shabbat, if this happens.
But they were keeping Shabbat already?
Some were. Some were, unfortunately. If you're not keeping Shabbat, now is the time to start keeping Shabbat. If you're not modest, now is the time to start being modest. If you're not promoting Torah, if you're not doing Kiruv, if you're not donating to Kiruv, now is the time to do it. You have to give Am Yisrael merits right now, because we are in danger. We are meant to be a light unto the nations, not to follow their misguided practices. Remember, every Jew has to remember that he's a Jew and she's a Jew. We don't celebrate non-Jewish holidays, even if they seem harmless. It's a zilzul, disrespect to the Torah, and could lead to Chilul HaShem, desecration of God's name. Stick to our holy Torah and our own holidays. That's the path of a true Jew.